Shalom, and welcome to a message for the Parsha for Parshat Balak. In this week's Parsha, Balak, the king of Moab, recruits the famous non-Jewish prophet Balaam to come and curse the Jews, figuring that this way he will eliminate the threat of the Jews crossing his land and taking over his land, which he wrongfully assumed that that's what's going to happen. But in any case, Balaam jumped on the opportunity to come and curse the Jews, and so eagerly arrived with full throttle intent to give the Jews the worst of curses, and he ended up giving us the greatest of blessings and singing our praise so loud that it sings through all generations. You see, the praises and the blessings that he gave at the end were so profound that we actually begin our daily prayers with one of the great praises that he said. And, of course, the blessings that he gave are the blessings, the promise, the prophecy of the coming of Mashiach, which is the greatest blessing of all. Thus, from the very, very bad came out the utmost good, which typically in life, and this it could be a lesson in itself, sometimes we experience things which in the moment seem so unfortunate, so sad and so bad, but really Hashem never does anything that's just bad. The purpose of everything is good. And within the bad, and sometimes we don't see it right away, sometimes it takes some time until we see it, but really there's always a hidden good, and it's just a matter of it becoming revealed. In this Parsha, it became revealed very quickly. In fact, the full force of the blessing has not yet been fully revealed because we're still waiting and anticipating the imminent arrival of Mashiach. But I want to focus in on one of the praises that he gave, and he said about the Jewish people. He said the famous verse which we begin our prayers with, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkonotecha Yisrael. How good are your tents, Jacob, and your dwelling places, O Israel. Jacob and Israel is really the children of Israel. This is not the place nor the time to get into the difference between the two, but in general, he's speaking about the children of Israel, us, the Jewish people. And what was it that inspired him about the dwelling places, about the tents, that triggered this great outpouring of praise of the Jewish people? Well, the sages tell us that when he went up on this very high peak to see the people, he wanted to view the entire Jewish people in order to be able to curse them, to pour his curses on them. He saw something that inspired him, and immediately he had a change of heart. He said their praise, and from there he segued into saying the great blessings. What was it that he saw? Well, there were so many tents. You're talking about millions of people living in a very relatively small, call it like a small city. They were all camped out, and they had all the tents set up with the families living in them. And he noticed something, that so intentionally and strategically the tents were set up in a way that the opening of one tent did not face the opening of another tent. That means they were all turned away from each other in a way that if one's tent was open, one's tent's door was open for some reason, the person living across in the next tent would not be able to look in and see them. Thus he realized and therefore appreciated the great level of modesty that existed amongst the Jewish people, and he could not hold himself in. He could not hold himself back, and he had to say the praise. We say it every day, also as a reference to the tents and the dwelling places. The tents meaning the tents of Torah, the houses of worship, and the houses of study. And the dwelling places mean the place that God dwells amongst us, which is again the synagogues, the houses of prayer, the houses of worship, that we begin and we say how good they are, how precious they are, how much Hashem dwells there. We repeat the same verse. But I heard a beautiful insight, which is so practical in life. another interesting, deep insight into this verse that really tells us also what he saw and what he noticed. You see, not only as far as the virtue of modesty, but he noticed something that told him, like, wow, how good and how lucky these people are. Look what kind of life they have. They have a good life. See, let me explain. Typically, the human being, no matter what he has, he always sees what the other person has. And by seeing what the other person has, sadly, that diminishes one's own satisfaction in what they have. Even the guy who has the 100-foot yacht, but as he's sailing along, he notices the guy who has the 150-foot yacht, and he's not happy because that guy has more. But you have so much, but he can no longer be happy. It takes away from his happiness. I have $10 million. Yeah, but the other guy has $30 million. I'm not happy. Now, that is different, by the way, than one having ambition and saying, I have $10 million, I have 100, and I like to have a bigger one. But the fact is that this bad trait that we humans have is that when we see what someone else has, when we look out to our neighbor and we see what they have, it takes away from what we have. It takes away from our happiness. It takes away from our satisfaction. And this is what Bilam saw. This is what he noticed. That the Jews live their life in a way that their tents do not face the openings. They don't look into someone else's door. They don't look to see what the neighbor, what furniture they have, what goodies they have. They look to see what they have, what I have, and to appreciate and to be grateful and to thank God for what I have. Thus, he said, look how good their lives are. Because with that, you can have the ultimate good life. Because everything you have, especially when you have good things that you should certainly hands down be thanking God for and be grateful for, you can better enjoy it and appreciate it and be happy with it when you don't look to see what someone else has. May Hashem always give us an abundance of blessings, and especially this wisdom, not to look at anyone else, but rather to look at ourselves and see how good it is, the things that we have and what we have, and always enjoy it.